Arch, happy Friday. Do you have a Friday dance that you want to show us all?
No, I don't think I'll do the Friday dance, but it's good to be a Friday. Although it seems like nowadays everything seems like a Friday, doesn't
I know it's like the weekend's coming up and we'll be doing this almost exact same thing.
it? Yeah, it's been
But I
difficult, but hope everybody's staying safe out there.
definitely. Well, I wanted to get to the NFC South since we gave our Falcons grades last time. I figured we could cover the rest of the division this time around. How's that sound?
That sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. Well, I think we should start with the team that made the most headlines in free agency, and rightfully so, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signing Tom Brady to be their quarterback. I mean, you're Tom Brady twice a year now, which is definitely going to be must-see TV. But when I think about what the Bucs already had last year and then adding Tom Brady and a couple of the other guys that they re-signed on their defense, I was already saying last year I thought the Bucs were on the up, and now I think they're the team to beat in the division. So for me, I'm going to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers an A+ for their free agency
Wow.
moves. I think, like I just said, I think they're the team to beat. They're the most complete team on offense now with Tom Brady and those receivers and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and the tight ends, OJ Howard and Cameron Brate. He's got a number of weapons, and he didn't have those type of weapons in New England. So I think he's just going to have a field day down there, and I think they're the team to beat.
Wow. Okay. I don't think they're the most complete offense by any stretch of the imagination. I think their running game still leaves a lot to be desired. Ronald Jones, the draft pick from a couple of years ago at USC, will have to shoulder that. Peyton Barber's gone. He was their leading rusher a year ago. So as much as we like what the passing game looks like with Godwin and Evans on the outside, and certainly the two tight ends you mentioned in Brate and OJ Howard, that creates that effect of passing the football. And now you've got a guy that's not going to turn the ball over. Think about their quarterback a year ago, Jameis Winston. He threw 30 picks, including the one that ended the season when Deion Jones stole it in overtime to win the game for the Falcons. 30 interceptions. Brady threw 8 interceptions last year. I mean, that's 22 less interceptions. Think about, with that really good defense you're talking about, how much better they're going to be. I agree with you that they're going to be a better team, and I think they're going to be a formidable opponent, and it's going to be much more difficult to go beat Tampa, both here and down at their place. I like the Brady addition, and then signing Shaquille Barrett, JPP, and Ndamukong Suh. Those guys are all monsters coming back. That was a team that was number 1 in the league against the run, and we know what they did at our passer here in our own building. So I'm going to give them an A-. So I'm a little under you. I'm not quite going to give them the superlative A+. That's not a grade, from what I understand in Tommy Boy, that's not a grade they like to give out, the A+. So
Well,
anyway.
they got it from me, so I'm not impressed with the Bucs, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what they do against the Falcons. But I know we'll get into the specifics of the matchup when the season rolls around. But from your point of view, what is the Falcons defense going to have to prepare for going up against a Tom Brady-led offense?
Well, I think it's similar to what any really good quarterback you're going to face, whether it's Drew Brees or whether it's Brady. And now we're going to talk about a guy that's going to be in Carolina next year that has the ability to take care of the football. So what you're going to have to guard against is his ability to spread the ball over the field, and you can't give up the big play. Tom Brady is a big time deep ball thrower. We see a lot of the throws underneath. Edelman's caught a lot of passes. We saw all their different players underneath catch the ball, their running backs and things, but he has the ability to stretch the ball down the field. And now with the 2 receivers he's got, those 2 guys on the outside can go down the field. That's something Jameis Winston was really good at, throwing the ball down the field. Now, sometimes his guys got it, sometimes your guys got it. But Brady is much better at taking care of the football. But I think it's just the cerebral game he brings to the table, that he's going to understand what you're trying to do to him, so you can't give up that cheap big play.
Yeah, and if I remember going back to the Super Bowl, a lot of the reason the Falcons had success against Brady was getting pressure on him, and I think that's why that addition of Dante Fowler is going to be huge. So we'll see what the Falcons do in terms of additions in the secondary, because that's a position group that I think they haven't quite finished moving pieces around. And when you talk about giving up big plays, those guys in the back are going to be a huge part of that. So those are definitely going to be some things we talk about in the future. So let's move on to some of the rest of the teams in the division. New Orleans, they make the decision to say, hey, Drew Brees, if you want to come back, we want you back, of course, because why would they not? And Drew Brees says, hey, I guess I'm just not that ready to hang it up yet. So it looks like they're gearing up to make another run at this thing with him. And they already had a roster that was pretty complete for the most part. So I think the addition that really stands out to me with the Saints is the fact that they gave Michael Thomas a running mate in Emmanuel Sanders. And that's not just, a number 2 who can slide in there and maybe do some things here and there. That's a legitimate starter in Emmanuel Sanders and a veteran presence. So I give the Saints a B for their grades in free.
Solid B from Kelsey. Okay.
I think Emmanuel Sanders is a huge addition to that offense led by Sean Payton and Drew Brees.
No, I agree. I think that Emmanuel Sanders is going to pay huge dividends for him. Obviously, Kamara out of the backfield. Now you've got Emmanuel Sanders that can wander the middle, maybe a slot receiver, do some of those type of things. We know that Michael Thomas is going to be the featured guy, but now you've got some guy that can take some of the heat off him. I completely agree with you in that regard. I think maybe they've made some strides defensively as well. I think Malcolm Jenkins coming back to New Orleans is a big deal. The safety was there originally in his career. He's gone to Philadelphia. He's been a Pro Bowler 3 times in Philadelphia. So now back, I think he brings a tremendous amount of leadership to their back end and their secondary. Janoris Jenkins has been re-signed. They signed P.J. Williams back, which I thought was a good thing for us because he's never been able to cover any of the Falcon receivers. So that's good to have him back on their roster. So I'm excited about that. But I do think Janoris Jenkins coming back is a big deal. And then Andrews Pete, who many felt like maybe they reached and gave way too much money to. He was a guy that, frankly, Grady Jarrett had a huge day down in New Orleans against before he was injured in that game. So I guess maybe good to have him back as well. But I'm sure Brees is excited about having him back. But it pains me, but I would agree with you. Brees being back, the addition of Emmanuel Sanders is a big deal. I think Janoris Jenkins and Malcolm Jenkins are a big deal. So I'm going to go ahead. It pains me to give them a B+. I don't ever like to throw any accolades towards the Saints, but B+. Good job for the Saints and for Sean Payton.
Yeah, we have to give credit where it's due, even if we don't want to. And of course, the Saints deserve that for those moves. So sounds like the Falcons-Saints games are going to continue to be thrilling based off the moves that Falcons and Saints made. When I talked to Dante Fowler yesterday, and I said, which quarterback in the NFC South are you looking forward to sacking most? And he said, all of them are really good. But he said the Saints offensive line is so good that if you get to Drew Brees, you really worked for it. So when you talk about them bringing back Andrews Pete, I think it was a huge addition. And I think they're going to continue to be that elite team on offense that we've been accustomed to seeing them. So I want to wrap this up by the team that I'm just not quite sure of what to think of the Carolina Panthers at this point, based off of what they've done in free agency. They have a lot of holes on their roster, in my opinion. They've lost a lot of their key marquee players in Luke Kuechly, Greg Olsen, and I'm just not sure of the players that they've replaced their production with. I mean, outside of Robbie Anderson at wide receiver, I'm not quite sure if they've added any more weapons to their offense that will make them any better than they were last year. And of course, we talk about Teddy Bridgewater taking over at quarterback. They let go of Cam Newton, say it's time to end that chapter. And I think Teddy Bridgewater is a really good quarterback, but I'm just not really that keen on what the Panthers are doing. I still need to see what they do in the draft. So for me, I'm giving the Panthers a C for what they've done in free agency. And I'm thinking that they've got a little bit of ways to go in terms of what the rest of the NFC South is doing.
Well, they lost a number of people up front in the offensive line. They made a trade that was a very curious trade. They traded Trey Turner, who's a multi-time Pro Bowler, for Russell Okung. Russell Okung missed the last 6 games of the year last year with blood clots in his leg, and I'm not sure how that's played out. Okung, I think, obviously, they're anticipating him being ready to play. Also, Darrell Williams gone off that defensive line, or offensive line. So they've got some adjusting to do just in front of Teddy Bridgewater. I think Bridgewater fits them perfectly, though. I think Bridgewater's ability to spread the ball underneath. He's a short to intermediate passer with DJ Moore and Samuel in the slot. Those guys are short receivers that can catch, make big plays, And then, of course, Christian McCaffrey is as good as there is at getting the ball in space to him and letting him go with it. I thought what Bridgewater did in New Orleans, those first 5 games starting 5-0, that's what he did. He spread the ball out underneath, got the ball to guys quickly, and they were able to move, prevented the sack. So I think Bridgewater is going to be much more conscientious of that. Cam was a good deep ball thrower, but he really struggled because of his mechanics to throw the ball in that intermediate to short region, and I think that cost them some. So Bridgewater, a nice addition there. But I think that Robbie Anderson will help them on the outside. He's got deep speed. He can stretch the field. But you mentioned it. What's going on the defensive side of the ball? Luke Kuechly, gone. Arguably the best linebacker in the National Football League. Dontari Poe, Vernon Butler up front. Mario Addison, gone. Those are guys they're going to have to replace. So I would agree with you. I think that this is a Carolina team that's kind of searching for identity or Matt Rule. I'm going to give them a C-. And I think that they're going to have to do some huge things in the draft to have guys come in and can play right away for them.
You know, I'm honestly shocked that they haven't, over the last couple of years, whether it be free agency or the draft, found that number 1 cornerback who can stop Julio Jones. Because since I started working for the Falcons in 2015, it seems like the Panthers don't have an answer for Julio Jones in the secondary ever.
Well, let me ask you this, Kelsey. Find me a team of the other 31 that has an answer for Julio Jones, and then probably they'll say, okay, let's have that guy. See, they had James Bradbury. Bradbury is a guy now gone to the Giants, and so they thought he was the guy, and then Julio put 300 on him in one game. They realized that's not the deal. So, no, there's not a team out there. I mean, there's a couple of corners you might pick out that might be able to match up with Julio for a while. I mean, Patrick Peterson came into our building a couple of years ago talking all this noise about how I can't wait to draw Julio Jones. I think Julio put 150 on him and a touchdown. So that didn't really work out very well either. So I'm not sure that guy exists. It's out there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, but it was just worth bringing up because, like you said, they did lose Bradbury. So that was another player that we didn't talk about who was a major part of their defense who's now gone. So that they definitely have some holes to fill on defense. So we'll see what they do there. But the NFC South just seems like it's the most dominant position, dominant conference in the NFL. Don't you agree with me?
Well, I think that it's certainly right near the top, Kelsey. I don't think there's any question. It doesn't take the back seat to any. I think that the NFC West is still pretty good. I think when you look at, I think the Cardinals have upgraded. I think they'll continue to upgrade. I think their young quarterback's going to come on. And obviously you got the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers. 49ers are in the Super Bowl. So I'm not sure that they're going to take a back seat to any either. There's a couple of divisions in the AFC that look to upgrade and potentially be there. But again, what you're saying is the NFC South is not taking a backseat to any other division in the league, and I think I would agree with that.
I'm going to wrap this up with a curveball. I'm going to throw you a curveball right now. Ready? Who is the team to beat in the NFC South at this point in the offseason?
New Orleans is always the team to beat until they get knocked off their perch. I think obviously we've talked about how good Tampa's upgraded. I think the Falcons have upgraded. I think Carolina's maybe spinning their wheels a little bit, which we just talked about. But I think as long as you're the division winner and you're the division leader and you have your quarterback coming back, and then they've added a couple pieces that we talked about, New Orleans continues to be the team you have to go get. Atlanta did that last year, and they're going to have to do that this year if they want to be the division winners.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. Until they prove that they can't do it, I think we should give the Saints the credit they deserve. But like I said, Tampa's coming, and I really like the moves the Falcons made in free agency so far. So, Arch, it was fun chatting NFC South ball with you. It was like we're doing this in person, but we're just, virtually talking about it. It's so great, though.
What I like about it is we're going to continue to do these series, continue to throw stuff at us at falcons.com. And let us know how you would like us to, what would you like to proceed on. We're going to hit into the draft heavily next week as we start preparing for the draft in a couple weeks. We're going to talk about how that's going to work, and then we're going to start breaking down position groups. So, Kelsey, I'm excited about it.
Yeah. # draft season is what they say, Arch.
Okay. I don't know all those technical terms. I'm old school, man. I don't know.
That's
I didn't know how I did this.
Arch, have a good weekend. I'll talk to you on Monday.
Take care.